friends, I'm back after a long hiatus with a new video, and I'm sorry it takes me so long between videos these days, but family and my day job kind of take precedence over me being able to put out videos. So I will no longer jinx myself by trying to give you a timeline of when my next video will come. I will just post whenever I can. So today we're going to be working on this decorative piece. I use it to hang some artificial plants. But again, like with any project, you can customize it whichever way you want. We're going to be using fiber paper again to create these cavities in the glass. If you do decide to change up the design, always remember that the top of the cavity needs to be bigger than the bottom of the cavity so that you're able to pull out the fiber paper once it's done firing in the kiln. There's just one firing involved with this project, but we're going to be doing some hole drilling, and then I did some other work with some wire work and stuff like that, but that's just aesthetics, and that's all up to you. I chose this design and these colors because it matches my living room, and this is where this piece is going to stay. So let's get started. So this was my concept sketch. It's not up to scale, but I wanted to do something rectangular, but with a round pocket, and then duplicate it on the bottom, so this line is incorrect here, but then have a split, so I'd have a multitude of shapes and colors in here. So then what I did is I did cut up some pieces of paper to scale, just to ensure that it would actually fit in my kiln, because my biggest kiln shelf is a 13-inch round, so 10 inches is about the maximum width that I could put something, well, if it's rectangular. So this is the top one. It's 10 inches by 5 inches, and then I'll explain all the other markings after. This square here is over here, and this one is 5 by 5, and this one here is 4 by 5 because I want a 1-inch gap in between both pieces, and then everything will align. So here I have my it's not really, it's less than a half circle, and I have an inch of space here, an inch of space all around, and that's the same on the others pieces because I need to keep space for where I'm going to put holes. So you see here in the concept drawing, there are these circles. I'm going to be making holes, these two to hang the piece, and these four here, or these 4 pairs to hang the top piece to the bottom pieces. So I want everything to align, so they're measured within 1/2 inch down and 1/2 inch over everywhere where the holes need to be. So here I then took that same shape, brought it down, and took that chunk out just to make it continuous and symmetrical. This dotted line here should also be present here, is where my fiber paper is going to end. Although, so this area down here, this whole area down here, not including this 1-inch space, is going to be the colored glass. So the tecta, the clear tecta, is going to take the size of this whole sheet, and then the colored glass is just 1 inch shorter. And then the fiber paper is going to come here to create that pocket. But you can't cut the fiber paper off here where the colored glass starts, in case the glass slumps over your fiber paper, and then it will trap your fiber paper in 2 pieces of glass. So I'm going to cut up my glass and come back and show you how everything is assembled. So here we're back. So you see this piece of Tecta will fit in on this sheet. So it's 5 by 10. And then I have this piece of colored glass that'll come in. It's supposed to be 1 inch shorter at the top, but actually I made it a little bit longer because I'm going to want it to drape over the side, because once I put in, so these are my pieces of fiber paper that I cut out. It's a stack of 3 and I glued them together. So when it's in the kiln, these don't shift off of each other. And like I said, you'll see it's got the flat edges here at the top. And it's 1/2 inch longer. And so when I place my colored glass on top, it's going to come like this. So there's no way that my fiber paper will get trapped between my pieces of glass because it extends out. And you see now that there's a gap between the 2 pieces of glass, it doesn't seem like I cut the glass that much longer. So we need to account for the draping. So the glass is kind of shrink in as it's draping. So that's why I made it a little longer. And so that piece is going to look like this. And these 2, this one with its little stack of fiber paper. So it's a stack of 3. These are 1/8 of an inch. I wore my mask as I was cutting it because it's fiber paper, it's glass fiber, and you don't want to inhale that. So this is going to go here, and this piece is going to come on top like this. And you'll have this piece here. This. With this piece coming on top. Now for this piece, I didn't have enough to put a lot of excess on the bottom. So let's hope that doesn't give us too much of a problem and shrinks it up too much. So we'll just have to wait and see how it comes out. So I'm going to clean up these pieces and put them in the kiln. And you'll notice in the firing schedule, we are firing low and slow on the way up and on the way down. So as we're warming up to the glass to get to our tack fuse temperature, because the fiber paper acts a bit as an it insulates the glass. So it acts as an insulator. And so your glass will not be warming at the same temperature, the piece that's on the kiln shelf and the piece that's on the fiber paper. So you want to take it really, really, really slow as you're taking it up to tack fuse. And then again, because you're going to have that space, so this bottom bit here is going to be 3 millimeters, here it's going to be 3 millimeters, the sides where it tack fused after it's slumped is going to be 6 millimeters. So you have all these different thicknesses, and you still have that fiber paper continuing to cause some temperature changes in the piece. You're also going to anneal for a very long time. So yeah, so there's going to be many things happening as this is in the kiln for its first firing. It's going to first start to slump down around the fiber paper and taking that beautiful shape. And then as this glass touches the glass below, it's going to tack fuse it. Here are our pieces fresh out of the kiln. I was hoping to be able to reuse my fiber paper and just slide them out, but they were in there pretty tight. So I'm going to be removing the fiber paper out of the pieces and cleaning them out. I went ahead and cleaned these out, and I rinsed them, and I used a brush to get in there and get all the fiber paper out while they were wet. And these containers are really, you have a nice cavity in them, and they're truly watertight. So you can put water in them and it doesn't leak. So you can use these as vases for little flowers, or you can put some decorative sand, or you can just put dried flowers in, like sand and dried flowers. You could do anything you want. If we look back at the original concept art for this, you see all these lines align well, perfectly well and everything. And then you look at this, and because we had made the colored glass wider than the tecta, you see we have some overhang here and some droopiness, and some pieces are bigger and some pieces are smaller than the exact measurements I had in my concept. But I'm not hating it. I actually like it like this. I think my original idea was to cut all of this excess off and grind it and then put the fiber paper back in and fire polish the piece. But I'm liking this overhang. It gives it more of an artisanal feel to the piece than something that's more mass market art, if you will. So I choose to leave it as is. And we have to be careful. Because of the fiber paper, there's a few bits that are very sharp. So I might go over this with my Dremel to kind of smooth it out, because this piece here is very, very sharp. And after I do that, I'm going to drill holes in these pieces. So this will have holes up here to hang onto the wall or the window, and then I'll have 2 holes here, 2 holes here, and then 4 holes here. Now I've marked all the spots where I want to poke holes, and to ensure that because I'm going to be using my Dremel and I'm going to be working in a wet environment, because we don't want that glass dust to come out, and you don't want your glass to overheat as you're drilling into it, so you work in a wet environment. The Sharpie will just wash away. To make sure that we don't lose our Sharpie marks as we're drilling, we're just going to cover those with a piece of tape. that we can remove once we're done. So I'm going to put tape on all of these, and then I'll use the Dremel, like I said, to grind down these sharp bits and to poke the holes. So I'm wearing my mask and I'm wearing safety goggles. This is the drill bit that I like to use. It's a diamond bit. And again, I'm working wet. First, I'm going to go in and grind those edges. As you saw, I was grinding to the inside at an angle, so on the front you don't see that matte finish that you get because of the grinding bit. And now I'm going to work on this sponge as I'm making the holes, so that once I get through the glass, I don't go and hit the bottom of my pan. And when you make a hole, you start at an angle and then you move up. Okay, here's our nice clean hole, and just take the tape off, clean it off, and there we go. So I'm going to do the same on all the other marks. My holes are all done, nicely drilled. So the next part is, how do I assemble it? How do I attach the pieces together? And that was a bit of a hard question because I didn't want to go with the fishing wire like I did in previous projects because I didn't think it would fit nicely. I wanted something a little more substantial. So then I thought I could put jump rings and put chains here, but then I'm always afraid because of the weight of this that the jump rings would open. So I was like, maybe I could solder them, but I don't want to introduce any lead because the solder I have is for stained glass, so it's lead solder. I don't want to introduce any lead to this piece. And then I thought I could use some hemp cording, but then because these are raw edges that are drilled, I was afraid it would fray. So then I decided instead to go with some leather cording. And this is what I did. So I've knotted the leather cording and I put a few wooden beads like these. I found these at the craft store. And so I knotted the leather cording on top and on the bottom, and then I wire wrapped the tail end of the knot to ensure that the knots wouldn't come apart. So it gives added security. So I'm going to show you how to do this, and I did the same on top. So the easy part is putting them on the bottom. The harder part comes when you have to attach it to the piece that's above. So to do this, I cut a fairly long piece of leather, and then I loop it through, and then make the knot where I go all the way around. The longer piece, and then thread it through from behind. And then make sure to pull it tight. Okay. Once it's nice and tight, get a piece of just a piece of wire, wrapping wire. So this is a gold tone piece, and I take my needle nose plier and make an initial loop like this. And then I take this loop and I hook it. I hook both those pieces of cording inside it. I use my flat pliers to hold that back piece on. And then I twist the wire in around the two pieces of cording. You could do it by hand like this, or you could use two pliers, but make sure that your lines are close together. It looks much nicer. do about 5 turns. Then once you're done, you can give it a bit of an extra squeeze, and cut off the excess wire and excess leather. I'm going to give this bit a final turn. And then I put the beads onto the cording. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side and then attach them to the top part. Ta-da! It's all done, all assembled. Now you're like, so what are you gonna do with it? Good question. I found these really cool artificial succulents at the Michael's, our craft store here, and I will be placing them in here. Like so. Here. And this one here. You could, what's good about these is you can bend them whichever way you want, but you could still see the stems on the bottom. So I also got some white sand that I'll fill the bottoms of these with and then stick the succulents inside. Here's a picture of it completed and hanging on my wall. And with the sand added, I couldn't add the sand as it was laying flat on my desk, or else it would have just spilled out everywhere. So I had to pour the sand in as it was hanging. As I said before, these are watertight, so you can actually put real flowers in them. But I don't know, I wanted to make this more of a permanent kind of display instead of having to change it out all the time. And these succulents really look real. And you could possibly put succulents or air plants, so plants that don't really require any dirt. And they're also a type of succulent, I believe. And you could put those in there, or just different color sand, or whatever you want. So I hope you enjoyed this project. And again, I'm sorry I haven't been posting so much. If you did, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you do use this project or make this project, I'd love you to tag me in it so I can see. A lot of people have been tagging me in their gnomes and their bee's knees projects, and I'm really loving it. It's so great to see people trying out what I'm showing. You could also follow me on Instagram. I post a lot there, a lot more often there. and I'll leave you with some more pictures, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.